Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Shri Advaita Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Shri Nama Sankirtan ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtatata Shri Shrivangas Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtatata Shri Shrivangas Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki Names Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki. So I'm very happy to be with all of you at Attapur this morning discussing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It's a great honor and a pleasure to be with all young Sankirtan devotees who are always going out, reaching out to the people, and in this way, keeping yourself occupied and spreading the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm sure I'll be benefited by all of your association and discussing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So this morning, we are discussing from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, first canto, 13th chapter, entitled as Dhritarashtra Quits Home, and verse 41. Please repeat after me. Narada Vacha Ma Kanchana Suchorajan Sukora Yadishvara Vasham Jaga Loka Sapala Yasyeme Vahanti Valim Ishito Sasamyunakti Bhutani Saeva Viyunakti viyunakti cha. Narada Uvacha Ma Kanchana Chugolo Rajan Yadeshvara Vasham Jagat Lokaha Sapala Yasyeme Vahanti Valim Ishito Yas ya sayam yunanti bhutani saeva viyunakti cha. Please repeat. Narada Vacha. Water. Maganchana Shuto Rajan Vashunga Loka Sapalayasye Vahanti Balinishutu Sasam Yunakti Bhutani Saeva Vinayakti Cha. Narada Vacha Loka Sapalayasye me Vahanti Balinishutu Sasanjanakti Bhutani Sayanakti Cha. Narada Vacha Vasham Sapalayasye Divayami Ishutuhu Vasamyakti Bhutani Sasamyakti Bhutani. Loka Sapalayasye me Vanti Sashanakti Bhutani Saeva Vinakti Cha. Matajis Narada Vacha Rajan Vahantim Balimichutu Saham Yunakti Bhutani Sayam Yakti Cha. Word to word translation. Narada Vacha. Narada said, never. Kanchana, by all means. Sucha, do not lament. Rajan, O king. Yeah, because Ishvara Vasham, under the control of the Supreme Lord. Jagat, world, Lokaha, all living beings. Sapalaha, including their leaders. Yasya, whose. He may all this. Vahanti, do bear. Balim, means of worship. Ishitu, for being protected. Saha, he. Samyunakti, gets together. Bhutani, all living beings. Saha, he. Eva, also. Viyunakti disperses. Cha and. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Narad Muni said, please repeat after me. O pious king, do not lament for anyone. For everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and the leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is He only who brings them together and disperses them. Purport. Every living being, Jai Shri Gonitaya ki, Shri Radha Madhav ki, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadramaya ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Every living being, either in the material world or in the spiritual world, is under the control of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. Beginning from Brahmaji, the leader in this universe, down to the insignificant ant, all are abiding by the order of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the constitutional position of the living being is subordination under the control of the Lord. Foolish living beings, especially men, artificially rebels against the laws of the Supreme and thus becomes chastised as an asura or lawbreaker. A living being is placed in a particular position by the order of the Supreme Lord, and he is again shifted from that place by the order of the Supreme Lord or his authorized agents. Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Maharaja Yudhishthir, or the modern age history, Napoleon, Akbar, Alexander, Gandhi, Subhash and Nehru, all are servants of the Lord. They are placed in and removed from their respective position by the supreme will of the Lord. None of them is independent, even though such men or leaders rebel so as not to recognize the supremacy of the Lord. They are put under still more rigorous laws of material world by different miseries. Only the foolish man, therefore, says that there is no God. Maharaj Yudhishthir was being convinced of this naked truth because he was greatly overwhelmed by the sudden departure of his old uncle and aunt. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was placed in that position according to his past deeds. He had already suffered or enjoyed the benefit accrued to him in the past. But due to the good luck, somehow or other, he had a good younger brother, Vidura. And by his instruction, he left to achieve salvation by closing all accounts in the material world. Ordinarily, one cannot change the course of one's due happiness and distress by plan. Everyone has to accept them as they come under the subtle arrangement of Kala or inconceivable time. There is no use trying to counteract them. The best thing is therefore that one should endeavor to achieve salvation, and this prerogative is given only to man because of his developed condition of mental activities and intelligence. Only for man are there different Vedic instruction for attainment of salvation during the human form of existence. One who misuses the opportunity of advanced intelligence is verily condemned and put into different type of miseries, either in this present life or in future. That is the way the Supreme controls everyone. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshushunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakarmalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhano Sutta Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshutarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So this is a very beautiful chapter, Dhritarashtra quits home. Very powerful. It has, it resembles Srila Prabhupada's style of preaching, Before starting ISKCON, Prabhupada was begging his friends and relatives to give one child to preach mission the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But after his long struggle, when he was successful, he preached, with his lot of deep realization, deep prayers, which he went through to establish ISKCON. And then after once ISKCON was established, he preached in a very strong way, And we see that in Prabhupada's life. And while he was struggling, he was, working hard to establish the Sankirtan mission, he wrote these purports. The first canto purports were written even before the ISKCON was established officially in the material world, officially. In his heart, ISKCON was already as an instruction given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But later, when ISKCON was established, Srila Prabhupada preached exactly Vidura preached to Dhritarashtra. Powerful. And the result was Dhritarashtra left home. And when Srila Prabhupada preached before, nobody gave their children. And when Prabhupada spoke loudly and spoke very boldly, so many children, young children joined the mission. Isn't it true? That is the value of truth. In the modern civilization, there's a saying, the modern management teaches sometimes, it's a lot of emphasis on speaking in a very sweet and palatable way. He cannot speak properly. He's having cough in the morning. Lot of cough in the morning. That's the sign and symptoms to retire. Nowadays people have kada. Hair are black, white, then they have dye. Then now there are so many anti-aging supplements and cosmetic treatments. Anti-aging. So when you get up in the early morning, you don't have to really worry that you have to retire. But Vidura, when he saw his brother in this situation, he says, hopeless case, hopeless case. Let me give a last try, like we try, preaching. If a person doesn't understand, just give him the stroke. This material world is a place of, आया तो welcome, नहीं तो bid come. बन गया भक्त तो ठीक है, नहीं तो वैसे भी, all are suffering, he'll be one of them. So Vidura preached very strongly. His preaching is so powerful. He uses such strong words, He says, if you read Prabhupada's purports, he says that how, you have still hopes in the material world, you are aging, and how shamelessly you are living like a dog at the mercy of Bhima. You are living like a dog at the mercy of Bhima. Prabhupada mentions, he purposely mentioned of all the Pandavas, he mentioned Bhima. So, because people in the material world are so engrossed with the untruth to be truth, until you take your both hand and pinch their thighs, they don't wake up. You need such strong preaching. Other people, if you pinch your thigh, sometime when I was a new bhakta, to keep myself awake in the japa, I used to do that. When you pinch your thigh, it's the most painful place. You wake up. So Vidura spoke to him like this. You're living like a dog at the mercy of Bhima. You know why Bhima? Because Bhima was mercilessly killing Dhritarashtra's son. If you read the Mahabharata, he was just like a butcher tears a chicken into pieces after cutting the neck. That way Bhima was tearing the bodies of the Kauravas into pieces. And every day in the end of the war, he used to beat his chest and say, today I killed 5 of them. Like this. And what to speak of killing Dusashan and Duryodhan? Mercilessly. Dusashan, he tore his chest a piece and drank the blood and shouted loudly. So Vidura took that incident and reminded Dhritarashtra, shameless fellow, you are living at the mercy of Yudhishthira, Bhima, the Pandavas, who killed your sons mercilessly. And this is very important. Such preaching in Kali Yuga is very, very important. And people in the Kali Yuga all are representative of Dhritarashtra. All representative of Dhritarashtra. Much more stronger, I would say. So that preaching is required. And this chapter exemplifies that. Very beautifully, very powerful. And what an impact, Subha hote nikal pade. Isn't it true? Before the sunrise, they left home next day. They didn't see the next day sun in Hastinapur. They just left and left. Where they went, Anyone knows where they went? Huh? Himalayas. Anyone knows the exact place? They went to Haridwar. The place is known as now as Saptarishi Ashram. That is the place where Dhritarashtra lived. Because recently when I went to Haridwar with Narottam Prabhu and Nitai Madhav Prabhu, last time when we went on Sankirtan, so we didn't have time. Sankirtan was overflooding there, Every pastime was in the Harinam only. Every pastime was in the Harinam. But when we went, I was a little bit, researching. So I came to know this place, Of course, we went to Haridwar. especially Haridwar and Rishikesh, has a lot of connection to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam because a lot of pastimes of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam took place there. You know, the place where the Dhritarashtra went and stayed and left his body after 7 days is actually at Saptarishi Ashram, which is in Haridwar. Then you all went to Shukrital, no? Shukrital, the place where Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam was spoken. Then another place is there, in Haridwar, like 4 or 5 kilometers from Haridwar, that's called Kankhal. You know that, what is that place? That is the palace of Daksha Prajapati. And the assembly of Daksha took place there, where he was supposed to perform his yagya. And there also there is a very dry yagya kund there right now. And there is a very big place where actually the kund was created. Now there is no water, but that's the place where Sati ignited fire from within her body and burned herself for ashes. Of course, these are very beautiful places there. But one very important place, which I will just share briefly, which is not in context with the purpose today, but there is one place called Brahmapuri at Rishikesh. This pastime is not there in the Bhagavatam. We went there. So this place is actually the place where Lord Ramachandra stayed while he was going to Devprayag. After building the bridge by Lakshman, Lord Rama halted at Brahmapuri. You know, Brahmapuri is a place, it's a very special pastime, not there in Ramayana also. So Brahmapuri is a place where Lord Ramachandra, before heading towards Devprayag, he stayed there. That night, he stayed there and performed tapasya. So Ganga was flowing there with a very heavy current. So Lord Rama performed his evening prayers, and then after that he told Lakshman that let's go to some other place where it is a little more silent and we'll sleep there. While Lord Rama was telling this to Lakshmana, Mother Ganga, she appeared from the water there. And she requested, my Lord, please, you stay today here on the bank here. I request you to stay here. So Lord Ramachandra said, no, with no offenses, I would like to go because here you are flowing with lot of current. So Mother Ganga paid obeisances to Lord Rama and told, my Lord, at this place, I will stop complete noise and you please sleep here. And Lord Ramachandra stayed that night. So you cannot see that place. It's a very secluded place even today. Only some 5-10 rishis are staying there. So when we went there, we went to the bank of the river there. There are steps there. Anyone has been there? Nobody. When we go next time, Rishikesh will go there. There, just little on the right, if you go off the bank, there is a noise of water. And you take a car and go upstream, you can hear Ganga flowing even from the car. But at that stream, there is, even today, there is no noise of Ganga. Ganga doesn't make any noise there. And still there is a Ram Gufa there, where Lord Ramachandra stayed. Lakshman Gufa is there. And the sadhus who are doing tapas, there is a Akhanda Ramayana being recited there, even today. Every day there are some sadhus staying in turns, 24/7 they read Ramayana. So they told us that if you sleep here, you will feel as if it's a soundproof room. You will feel as if it's a soundproof room. So preaching very strongly in this purport, Srila Prabhupada very nicely mentions that the constitutional position of a living being is subordination under the control of the Lord. The foolish living beings, especially men, artificially rebel against the laws of the Supreme and thus become chastised by as an asura or a lawmaker. So, just by being a very good and pious man doesn't help. Prabhupada is mentioning, even if you're that, you will be still chastised like the asuras are chastised. Prabhupada is confirming here. कुछ करो तो भी फंसे, नहीं करो तो भी फंसे. Material world is such a place. The foolish being, what he says, artificial rebel against the laws, supreme law, and thus being chastised by a living being in the place of particular position by the Lord, by the order of Supreme Lord. And he is again shifted from that place by the order of the Supreme Lord or his authorized agents. So Prabhupada very strongly, in one sentence, he speaks the whole Gita again. This material world is a temporary place. Today you are something, tomorrow you will be something else. Without your consent, in this lifetime, things will be snatched away by you, and if not by the lifetime, the death will take away everything from you. Death will take away everything from you, which means you will leave everything here and go away. All the beautiful plans which we have in the material world will be destroyed with death. And then Prabhupada is quoting the great authorities who also went through this. And then he quotes the modern historians, Napoleon, Akbar, Alexander, Gandhi, Subhash and Nehru. Then in various places, Srila Prabhupada quotes this the modern historians mentioned here. If you read in one of the lectures, Srila Prabhupada speaks about Napoleon. What did Napoleon do? Anyone knows? He conquered the world, and later what happened to him, And what they did with him, He was such a merciless, monarch. When he conquered the world, after that he was conquered. And then he was put in the jail, and Prabhupada says, what happened to Napoleon? In the jail, they made him drink horse urine. That was his victory, In the end, he was also conquered, and he was made to drink horse urine. And then Alexander the Great, he actually made a statement, when I die, keep my hands open, Alexander, when he conquered the world, he, in the end of his life, he was repenting, for even after conquering the world, he's not conquered anything. He's incomplete. And he's going to die with carrying anything with him. So he mentioned to his ministers that when I die, please keep my palms open and let the world see that when I left this world, I was empty-handed. Nothing went with me. Nothing. And nobody was interested to come with me. Neither my soldier, my family and friend. Nobody. That's what he said. And what to speak about Gandhi and Subhash and Nehru. About Gandhi, the Srila Prabhupada very respectfully but very clearly mentioned. Prabhupada was influenced by the Gandhi mission. Sometimes, it happens when you are a devotee, when you go for the modern education system, material nature has its own influence. So Prabhupada was a Gandhian, you know that? Before he met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was a Gandhian, follower of Gandhi. Subhash Chandra was Prabhupada's senior in his college. He was one class ahead. So after Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at Ulta Danga, we had the fortune to visit 15 days ago, right? 15 days ago, about 2 weeks ago, we had the fortune to visit Ulta Danga. That's where Srila Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for the first time. And that place is restored by ISKCON. And the conversation there was, Prabhupada was in the Gandhi mission, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur met him. Prabhupada very reluctantly went to see Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And when Srila Prabhupada met, Bhaktisiddhanta saw in Srila Prabhupada the young, dynamic preacher, and Prabhupada empowered him. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta empowered him. He told him that you are a young, educated, English-speaking Indian gentleman. Why don't you take the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the English-speaking world? Srila Prabhupada told Bhakti Siddhanta, who's going to listen to the message which is coming from India? Who will listen to our message? A country which is dominated by the foreign forces. So Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta gave an answer which gave birth to ISKCON in the heart of Srila Prabhupada. If you go to the temple today also, on the temple, what we call the road crossing, there is an arrow towards Ulta Danga temple, and it's written birthplace of ISKCON. You can go and see there. It's written the birthplace of ISKCON took birth in Srila Prabhupada's heart there. You know why? Bhakti Siddhanta told to him. He gave an answer which struck Prabhupada's heart, and rest of his life he contemplated. There's a beautiful teaching here. One thing Bhakti Siddhanta, what he spoke, and Prabhupada's contemplation, and how ISKCON took birth. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur told him that the message of Godhead, the message of Godhead means the message of Bhagavatam and the Gita doesn't depend upon the political situation of a nation. It is the need of the every human being. It's a very powerful answer. It requires basic IQ to understand this answer also. One has to be really having a little spiritual knowledge to understand this. Otherwise, just by engineering and medical degree, this sentence of Bhakti Siddhanta will go bouncer. You know, he cannot understand. Material engrossment cannot understand. The message of Godhead does not depend on a political situation of nation. And that's it. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada at that moment thought in his heart that the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is in the right hands. Why? The vision Bhakti Siddhanta had, the thought process which he had, the way he thought and understood the philosophy and preached had an impact. One sentence had an impact in the heart of Srila Prabhupada. That ISKCON was born. From then, he was just contemplating about Bhakti Siddhanta and his instruction. All his life. In fact, Prabhupada thought at that time, he was already married. When he met, he said, if I was not married, I would have joined his mission. If I was not married, I would have joined his mission. And then whole life, he contemplated on this instruction, and then various instructions Srila Bhakti Siddhanta gave him. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave him. Because of the contemplation on this instruction, though Srila Prabhupada was grihastha, but he was always in the preaching fire. When he was in Allahabad doing his business, he used to give his house for preaching to the Gaudiya Math brahmacharis and sannyasis. And some places, when Srila Prabhupada, in Mumbai actually I heard, in some places, he was such an eloquent preacher and speaker, and such amazing English he had, that Prabhupada's god brothers used to allow him to preach wherever they would. At one occasion, Srila Prabhupada was actually visiting the sannyasis who were preaching. So, because he was visiting, they wanted Srila Prabhupada to give classes. So the sannyasis and brahmacharis, they would sing the invocation prayers and the kirtan. And then after they would complete, they would say, Abhay Babu, Abhay, you give class. And Prabhupada used to give classes. And sometime Bhakti Siddhanta came in his dream and told him, take sannyas. See, these things doesn't happen. These dreams doesn't come just like this. Whatever we contemplate, that is what our consciousness becomes. And that kind of thought process and dreams we have. So Srila Prabhupada was always thinking of serving the mission. And Bhakti Siddhanta said, take sannyas for that. In the dream. And at 2 occasions he got this dream. Srila Prabhupada woke up and saw himself in the Grihastha ashram. But that grave desire made all happen. What all he went through. He had to struggle after getting the instruction, he had to wait for the right time. For that, he has to associate with the non-devotees, do his business. Leaving the business, he started preaching. While preaching for several years, he got success in Jhansi. And that center, if you see Prabhupada, just by one small center, he started thinking about a worldwide Sankirtan mission. And he made a prospect, League of Devotee prospect. And then Prabhupada had to close it. And then he went to America. While he was translating his book, he was in Kolkata. He was in Delhi. He was staying in Radha Damodar, staying in Delhi. He was distributing his Back to Godhead magazine. And one day, in the hot sun, he fainted. And also one day a bull hit him. You know that? Srila Prabhupada, in a hot sun, was trying to distribute in one lane in Delhi. A bull hit him and he fell unconscious. Nobody there to lift him. Nobody there to lift him. Nobody practically there to lift him. He fell unconscious. Some people later on saw him lying down and woke him up, and he went on. And he went to America. He didn't know. He was living in the house of Gopal Agarwal peacefully. But after 1 month living there, that comfort was suffocating to him. Because he was not able to inaugurate the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, instructed by his spiritual master. So he left that place and went to Bauri. He stayed there. He got one disciple, one follower, David, who was a drug addictor. And he left everything to please Srila Prabhupada, and one fine night he took an overdose of drugs. Overdose of drug, and wanted to attack Srila Prabhupada. Middle of the night, Srila Prabhupada runs for his life. And then he stays with young couples, young American couples. Oh, like that, so much is there in Srila Prabhupada's life. When we can understand how Srila Prabhupada went through, just by one instruction. And this following of Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, that one instruction finished everything. In fact, when we went to the birthplace of ISKCON, Ulta Danga temple, when we went there, Nitai Madhav Prabhu read one very beautiful book. What was the book's name? The book was, it's a compilation of conversation of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Recently I quoted that. I shared also. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was visited by Subhash Chandra Bose. And Subhash Chandra Bose told Bhakti Siddhanta that I have taken this responsibility as a goal of my life to free our nation from this, what we call colonization of Western rule. And I have asked the citizens of India, young men, to give their life and blood, and I'll give them independence. And I have understood, you have attracted many young souls at your lotus feet. Why don't you give some of them for this mission? And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, beautiful preacher. He tells, when he listens, and see, at those days, Subhash Chandra was the hero of the nation. Hero of the nation. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur heard this very boldly. Subhash Chandra spoke to Bhakti Siddhanta. And Bhakti Siddhanta heard very peacefully and told him, have you read the Bhagavad Gita? He asked him, have you read the Bhagavad Gita? Bhakti Siddhanta said, yes, of course. Then Prabhupada said, Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, have you read this verse? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Loudly. So he said, yes, of course. He said, what is the translation? He said, I understand. O son of Kunti, one attains whatever he thinks at the time of death and will constantly be absorbed in that mood. So do you understand? He said, yes, I do understand. So then Prabhupada, Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he told Subhash Chandra Bose, suppose you died today and you take birth in London. Suppose you died today and you take birth in London. Will you think of making this nation free of the British rule, or you will assess the British kingdom to dominate this nation? What will you do? What will you do? And that conversation goes like this. Netaji, I understand your logic. However, at this moment, it is fitting to think about independence of our nation. Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Thakur. You are worried about all this. All that is impermanent and material. That is material, independence for our nation. Thinking that we are Indians. However, the designations of being Indian itself is a material one. My worry is for humanity at large. How humanity can be freed from the bondage of material illusion is actually, I do not think just for human beings, but rather for all living entity. How they can become free from the material bondage. This is my mindset. Bhakti Siddhanta said, this is my mindset. Netaji tells Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta, I have never before in my life heard such an eloquent explanation of the Gita. However, I just fear our nation's independence movement does not get negatively affected. After speaking this word, Netaji never made any more request or met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur for this. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki. I just quoted this past time because Srila Prabhupada is quoting in the purport about Subhash. He writes like this, Gandhi and Subhash. About Gandhi, so Prabhupada said later on in his conversation, oh, he did very foolish thing. He said he was holding the Gita and speaking about non-violence. And in the Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna, kill. In the Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna what? Kill. Kill the demonic mentality, kill the demonic people. Fight for dharma. And Gandhi is holding and telling, non-violence. Non-violence. So Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada preached like this. Maharaj Yudhishthira was being convinced with this naked truth because he was greatly overwhelmed by the sudden departure of his old uncle and aunt. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was placed in that position according to his past deed. He had already suffered or enjoyed the benefits accrued to him in the past. But due to his good luck, somehow or other, he had a good young brother, Vidura, and by his instruction, he left to achieve the salvation by closing all account of the material world. So here it is mentioned that Dhritarashtra was very fortunate. Why? Because he had one younger brother who is devotee of Krishna and who preached to him very strongly, and that preaching made difference in his consciousness, and he left. Immediately after that he left. In a similar way, here Prabhupada also briefly mentions that just sometimes even being devotees, we can fall prey to such circumstances. And Yudhishthira Maharaj is exemplified in that. So that is why in this pastime, when Dhritarashtra leaves for Haridwar, Himalayas, so Yudhishthira Maharaj comes up into the scene and he says, oh, what happened? What did I do to my uncle? What did I do? Did he not forgive me for killing his sons? Oh, that sin, how will I get rid of that sin? Did I do any offenses? Did my body language do any offenses to my aunt? They left us without saying us. And by that time, the hero of the Bhagavatam appears there. Hey, chap, Narada Muni. This is the beginning of that verse, Narada Muni comes into the picture and tells him, chap, the world will go on. Keep your piety with you. Keep your piety with you. The world is going to go on. You don't try to be over. Sometimes, we try to become too good a devotee. That also is not good. It is always good to be a devotee who follows the instructions of the superiors and makes the mission of the spiritual master as the purpose of his existence in the material world. That is devotion. That is why you will understand the higher cause of spiritual existence. That is how you will come to know. Otherwise, material nature, if you try to become too good a devotee, there is the subtle Maya will take you too high as a devotee. And falling down from there is more painful than falling as a karmi, It's a very, very dangerous, precarious situation. That is why Srila Prabhupada mentions spiritual life is walking on the razor edge. Spiritual life is walking on the razor edge. And for the materialist life there is no razor edge. They are already sleeping in the laps of Maya peacefully. They don't even they don't even know there is a edge exists, They are peacefully sleeping in the lap of Maya. For the devotees, there is razor edge. Why razor edge? Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj mentions. He said in Kali Yuga, the conditioned soul is sleeping in the laps of Maya, snoring peacefully. In the world of Suta Mita Ramanira Chinta. Me, my family, my children, my positions. So you cannot disturb him. So very snoring very deeply. He said, but Kalira Chela, they will not, there are disciples of Kaliraj. They will never go and disturb the snoring materialist. The chelas of Kali will never go and disturb the snoring materialist. You know what they will do? They will come in dhoti, kurta and tilak. They will come in dhoti, kurta and tilak and disturb the devotees. They are called Kali Chela. Any devotee who does prajalpa, who is more interested in the politics, who's more interested, who religious criticism, Relations means it's like he will sleep in the Bhagavatam, but while he is criticizing the ISKCON situation, the devotees, politics, you will see his face is like lit up with thousands of suns, like that. He'll be like speaking like Keshav Kashmiri spoke, like that he will speak. Like another Bhagavatam going on. They will come. They'll come. There's interest, they'll say, and then they'll tell you. They will speak everything which is against our philosophy. And they will have 2-3 answers. One, be practical. Second, we are not Srila Prabhupada. No, we are not pure devotees. And third, we are not Prabhupada disciples. Because if you say, but Prabhupada disciple did like this, but we are not like that. We have to be practical. We have to make sure that we are financially secure, our children's education is secure, and from then spiritual life will begin. From then our spiritual life will begin. Radheshyam gives a very beautiful example. He says such mentality is like taking a gamcha and going to the Puri ocean and standing there, waiting for the waves to stop and quickly take bath and come out. The intelligent man is so intelligent that is waiting in the gamcha for the waves to, and then he will go take a quick bath and come out. See how intelligent he is, no? Isn't it true? Isn't it? How intelligent he is, right? We all intelligent people make such material plans. But there is one problem. You know what? You know what is the problem? Waves will never stop and he will never take bath. And material nature will slap you in such a way that you will never fulfill anything material. And even if you fulfill something, the material fulfillment gives birth to 1,000 material desires. That is the nature of material fulfillment. It gives to another 1,000 material desires. Because that is why Vaishnavas should know what is our wants. There is no end to our needs. We should know our needs. There is no end to our wants. What we need. Keep pushing the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise we'll get stuck like this. And preach like Vidura. While preaching like Vidura, sometimes we also get preached to ourselves. Arey, मैं ऐसा बोल रहा हूँ, खुद नहीं follow कर रहा हूँ. Sometimes our soul will wake up, Preach like Vidura. Congregation, you may be a youth, you may be a congregation, you may be a brahmachari, you may be a full-time grihastha. Doesn't matter. Everyone is equally responsible to spread the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But nobody should give purports to Prabhupada's purports in the form of material weakness, increasing material, planning material settlement. Nobody. The biggest injustice and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada's Sankirtan ISKCON mission is giving purports to Srila Prabhupada's purports in a way to make be practical and be comfortable in the material world. This is the biggest cheating with this living being in the Sankirtan mission. Isn't it? The biggest cheating. We should not fall to it. Everyone, that 1 paisa circus. Anyone who tells you that, you tell that, ये अभी सर्कस देख के आया है. ये अभी 1 पैसा का सर्कस देख के आया है. You know 1 paisa circus? All of you know the 1 paisa circus, no? All of you know or not? 1 paisa circus by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Anyone who preaches us that, you should immediately remind yourself. ये अपना पैसा 1 रुपया गवा के आया है, and he wants us to lose 1 paisa, our paisa also. You should immediately understand. This is the person Bhakti Siddhanta is quoting. And never take association. Always send them, preach them strongly. Like Radheshyam Prabhu used to, when we were becoming preachers, he used to give a class to the preachers to preach. So he used to say that sometimes the youths will come and cry to you with their problems. And you should be very Krishna conscious to give them Krishna conscious solution. He said, counselor and counseling meeting doesn't mean the counselor will come with his handkerchief and the counselor will come with his handkerchief. And both of will sit and cry about the problems in the material world. He said, that's not, a spiritual relationship. That's not preaching. If you hear too much the problems of the people in the outside world or devotees suffering due to the material nature, our sarvanash will happen. That's why I have a very simple principle. Whenever some grihasthas come to talk to me about their problem, the first thing I ask them, what is your property? कितना है? कितना बनाया है? कितना जन्म से लाया है? Inheritance. और अपना नहीं, बीबी का भी बताओ. Wife को भी inheritance में कितना मिलेगा? And after all this understanding, then I hear his problem. Bolo. Problem bolo. And if it's reasonable, I give a solution. And if it's just waste of my time, I say, here is the problem. You are sitting on this and you are trying to comfort, like the hen sits on an egg, एक अंडा निकल के तो अंदर लेके, that hen, one egg goes out लेके अंदर बैठ जाते हैं. You are sitting on all this and you are telling them material life, you don't have to suffer. Sarvanasham, full bhakti sarvanasham will happen with all these things. It doesn't mean you have to give up everything, but you should always be in the Sankirtan fire. That fire will keep what you need and take away what is not good for your spiritual life. It may be money, it may be property, it may be family, whatever it may be. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very merciful. Mahabhav Prakash Leela. Everyone came to Lord Chaitanya. Those who joined this mission don't have to worry. Everyone came and he said, one person came and told Mahaprabhu, I am in your mission, But my wife is not supporting. Please forgive her, give her bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu granted. He said, Mahaprabhu, Lord, my father is opposing me to join the Sankirtan mission. Lord, please forgive him and giving your blessings. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radha Govind Maharaj says, no, sometimes we preach that, Radha Govind Maharaj says in a very beautiful Hindi, he says, कभी कभी हम लोग प्रचार करते हैं कि यदि भक्त बन गए तो 21 पीढ़ी तर जाएगी, राइट? 21 पीढ़ी तर जाएंगी. ये तो बात सही है, मगर चैतन्य महाप्रभु के समय तो जीवित पीढ़ी तर जाती है. हमने बहुत बार देखे हैं, हमारे जवान लोग भक्त बन जाते हैं और कुछ दिनों के बाद में यात्रा में अपने माँ या बहन को, भाई को लेके आ जाते हैं और 1 महीने के बाद में माँ बाप और बहन भी कंठी माला झोला लेकर के मंदिर में दिखते हैं. ये तो तर गई ना, करंट पीढ़ी तर गई कि नहीं? वर्तमान पीढ़ी, like our Rakesh is there. You brought your family to Vrindavan. And I met this my sister and mother dhoti in tilak and sari and with the bead bag in the temple. Our More is there. His father came for Vrindavan Yatra. Right? You can see that. महाराज बोलते हैं 21 पीढ़ी तो क्या, करंट पीढ़ी ही तर जाती है चैतन्य महाप्रभु कृपा से. So that is the benefit. Material nature, see, spiritual realization comes when we take risk. When we take risk. No pain. No pain? No risk, no realization. You will be in some balloon. Like, भगवत धाम जाएंगे, उधर कोई, और एक बार एकदम प्योर डिवोटी हो गए तो फिर वापस मटेरियल वर्ल्ड में लाइफ बर्थ नहीं लेना पड़ेगा. और स्पिरिचुअल में क्या होता है? स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड में बर्थ नहीं है, ओल्ड एज भी नहीं है और डिजीज भी नहीं है. ठप करके बलून विल ब्लास्ट एंड विल फेल. दैट ठप करके द बलून विल ब्लास्ट एंड फेल. All this thing, floating doesn't work. You have to go out. The world is going, people are going to hell in wholesale. And we are sitting that, birth में गोलोक में ना जन्म होगा, ना मृत्यु होगा, ना दर्द होगा, ना pain होगा. No. Our acharyas, why should Srila Prabhupada go and preach in such difficult circumstances? How did Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur preach so powerfully to Subhash Chandra Bose? He was the hero of the nation of all young people, Subhash Chandra Bose, right? How did Bhakti Siddhanta preach so strongly? He mentions here, my concern is about all human beings, all living beings. So it is said, the acharyas, their hearts cry with pain when they see people in this material world are suffering and going to hell. And that is why the acharya goes out and preaches. The acharyas goes out and preaches. That is the purpose of the Sankirtan mission. To fulfill that desire of our acharyas. Every individual should be a part of Sankirtan mission with this mood. We should never go out on Sankirtan thinking, book जाएगा कि नहीं जाएगा. अरे book नहीं गया. अरे लोग response नहीं कर रहे. That is not the purpose. The purpose is they're going to hell. And Srila Prabhupada gave us the responsibility to save them. That is the reason we are going out. Understand? That is the reason we are going out. Never get bewildered from this thought process. That we are here to fulfill that desire of our acharyas. And that will come by good association, reading, associating with seniors, associating with Srila Prabhupada through his purports, reading the life of acharyas, contemplating on the Vaishnava bhajams, how they are crying and pleading. That will make us that Vaishnava. Then that leadership will come. Spiritual leadership doesn't mean the good skill. It means that quality of paradukha dukhi, that quality of Vaishnavism, making everyone feel loved unconditionally. That is spiritual leadership. Spiritual leadership means, you say that Prabhupada writes in the purport that 21 generation will get delivered, right? In 7th canto. But spiritual leadership means when you meet a person who joins the mission, just by meeting you, he should feel, I got the love of 21st generation mother and father in one Vaishnav. That is spiritual leadership. 21 पीढ़ी का प्रेम एक साथ मिल रहा है. That is it starts with loving prasadam, for sure, It starts with loving prasadam, but that's required. Otherwise, this material world is full of place of ego, quarrels, unnecessary fighting, unnecessary. Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj tells this beautiful story, one of my favorite stories. After a long time, I'm remembering it. There was a wolf which was drinking water on the upstream of a river, and there was a lamp drinking water on the downstream of a river. The wolf could not reach the lamp, so he got very angry, upset and envious that I cannot eat him and he is peacefully drinking water. So the wolf looked at the lamp and said, "Hey!" So the lamp looked up. "Yes, sir. Why are you making the water muddy for me?" The lamb said, "Sir, I am drinking water downstream. You are drinking water upstream. From the drinking of water downstream, how am I making the water muddy in the upstream? Is it possible?" "No, leave about that. Why did you speak about me, our wolf community, bad last year? Why are you criticizing us last year?" The lamb looked. He said, "Sir, I was born 3 months. How can I speak about you ill last year? How can I speak about you ill last year?" And Gaur Govind Maharaj, this is the situation in the Kali Yuga, in the material world, especially in Kali Yuga. You cannot fix any problem which is materialistic with any intelligence. It will lead to only this. It will only lead to this. It is foolish to think people are just with material desires and egos. They will never be satisfied. Only thing we have to do is janma sartak kari karo paro upakar. Make your life perfect, fixed in Krishna consciousness by preaching the Krishna consciousness. 9:30, sorry. By preaching very boldly, and then you see what will happen. We have a very great responsibility. There are so many communities who are converting the citizens, and they want to win the world with all cheap, low-class, inhuman strategies of conquering people. But we have the real thing. We have the mission to win the world with the love of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan mission. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki! So please take this mission very seriously. Every moment, think with all our shortcomings. Our Brahmastra is, with all these things I want to improve, I want to serve this mission. With all our shortcomings, always be in association and contemplate to serve the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada ki, Granthrat Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki. So this chapter actually, the essence of this chapter is the preaching of Vidura. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for patiently hearing. I'm sorry I went little over time. Any questions or comments, Nidai Madhavam? Yes. Give the mic.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So my question is irrelevant to today's topic. So
Go ahead.
Prabhuji, like generally we are tend to know about, want to speak about controversy topics, and sometimes we want to know about high-level books or Goswami books, which we are like how to avoid this tendency.
There is nothing wrong in having the tendency to read high-level books, but you should complete all Srila Prabhupada books. You should complete all Srila Prabhupada books and you should have done some tangible 2 to 3 years of physical services. Then you will be able to understand those books. Otherwise, you will waste your time reading them. Neither you can understand anything, neither you can preach about it. It's always good to follow. Srila Prabhupada instructed to translate Goswami books, so there's nothing wrong. But always good to complete Srila Prabhupada's books properly, all the books, and 2 to 3 years you should do services. That my realization, that matures you to understand the Acharya's writing. Otherwise it will become a esoteric mental insense gratification. It goes high. You know what happens? As you go high, that much strong you fell. Phat करके. You understand? जितना ऊपर जाता है उतना जोर से नीचे गिरता है. You know that? So that danger is always there.
Prabhuji, we always tend to talk about controversies issues, like how to avoid this tendency?
Controversial issues, see, the point is this, that there are so many people going to hell. We should feel the urgency to save them. We and our thoughts should not be more important than the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya. And I don't think so by controversial issues and preaching that or discussing that we can make any devotee, or neither we can make any devotee stay in the movement by that. By speaking sweet Krishna Katha and practical philosophy is what will help ourselves, the devotees and people in the outside world. Just like we are celebrating Lord Jagannath festival right now. And Narada Muni is there everywhere. But we should also know, it is because of the mercy of Narada Muni that Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra appeared. When the pastime was happening in Dwaraka, Lord Krishna, Balaram and Subhadra, they were hearing the pastimes of Vrindavan, and they were in so much of ecstasy that their eyes became big like tortoise, bigger and bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger. Their bodies started melting, they didn't come to know. And when Narada came there, the Lord immediately came back to his external consciousness. But Narada said, my light, I saw it already. No need of changing, I saw it already. And I want you to give the mercy of this form, a darshan of this form to humanity. Please, my Lord, you appear. And the Lord said, I will appear in Purushottam Kshetra, in Shri Kshetra Puri, in this form, and I will eternally reside there. If you tell this to people, it will benefit. Isn't it true? So you should always, controversy will not benefit. Until you are in management, until you are dealing with political issues, it doesn't help. It will not help you. It will, all this thing leads to, some form of fall down in spiritual life, sooner or later.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Already we are fallen. We'll have to go below the earth, and from there to come up will be more difficult. Okay? So better be careful. Yes. Bhavamaya Nityananda Prabhu, yes.
In this connection, I was wondering about whether Sanjaya knows about the truth, they left the home, or he doesn't know.
As per the Bhagavatam, he doesn't know. But I don't know if somewhere else written, Nitai Madhav. As per the Bhagavatam, he doesn't know. Because he's also lamenting, all these great gentlemen, they cheated me. He's lamenting. Do you know the answer? You're purposely asking.
I was just checking with Bhagavad Gita that where he says that because of the mercy of Vyasadeva, I was able to relate this Kurukshetra war story. He has the mercy of Vyasadeva. At this point also,
Yeah, but even Arjuna had the mercy of Lord Krishna. But he also forgot, no? Isn't it? That is also there, no?
Yes.
That is the answer to your question. It is the will of the Lord, we don't know what it is. Until it's in writing, we cannot say. Yeah. Okay. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.